Hey guys, Lorenz Köhler. We are back with the Bettor Podcast. It is season 3, episode 2, and today we've got somebody special. I don't mean to make them feel old today, but when I was growing up, I was at the stadium shouting, "Booth!" Is a very unique character and somebody that stuck out like a sore thumb for obvious reasons in South African football and the Bafana Bafana squad. Matthew, thank you for taking your time to speak to me. I literally had to force myself out of bed through flu and get myself healthy to be here today because I didn't know when I'll be able to get you again. But thank you for taking your time.
No, of course, only a pleasure, Lorenz.
So Matthew, like, when I spoke to you, I called you and I said, listen, we want to preview, the World Cup and obviously speak about your career, what you've been doing post your career. Obviously, people see you on TV, but they don't know what you're doing behind the scenes and things like that. You were part of the 2010 World Cup, but I want to start from the beginning because it's like obvious things that people always want to know. How did a white guy from Cape Town, Fishoek, become a professional footballer in your era? Like, where did it start? What was the environment that created Matthew Booth?
Yeah. I'll probably say my family background. My dad and his 3 brothers all played football for Fishoek Association Football Club, which was established in 1930. Very well-run old amateur club based on the peninsula in Cape Town. And I found that, generally speaking, a lot of our talent comes through the local LFA, well-run amateur clubs that are built around volunteerism. And we're kind of losing that to a certain extent, where amateur clubs are starting to professionalize, which is a little bit of a pity. But a lot of talent came through that club, and I see it locally here in Johannesburg as well. I'm associated with Panorama FC on the West Rand, and it's so gratifying seeing young kids come through the system and not only make it professionally, but just become better human beings because they're rubbing shoulders with kids from different demographics. You learn how to win, lose as a team, etc. There's so many life lessons that you learn on that journey. Yeah.
Discipline as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing Fishoek. I hated going there because there was always really crap weather, and the field would be, it would be like in peak winter in Cape Town. You know what that field would look like. Yeah. So it was a very difficult place to go to. But yeah, Fishoek, you played there how many years, and then what was that moment, or where was it that it went like, I'm going to become pro? Who discovered you?
To be honest with you, I was very competitive as a youngster. I hated losing, and I was doing it to keep fit and to have a good sweat and to enjoy the camaraderie of my teammates and that competitive nature of 11v11. Who's going to come out tops. That's what drove me as a youngster. There was no intention to become professional until we got invited to the Bay Hill tournament. And most people know this is a very prestigious youth tournament in the Cape, which is now growing enormously. I think at one stage there were overseas teams that were invited, but at that stage it was just local clubs, mostly dominated by Hellenic, who had a very good Celtics Colts at the time. So to get invited to that was incredible. And
as Fishoek?
As Fishoek, yeah. At that time we had a decent team, and I got scouted by Mich de Avray, who was at the tournament with his Cape Town Spurs team, and got asked to join them. I was in my matric year, so it wasn't an easy decision. You can imagine traveling from Fishoek to Parow.
Yeah, that's...
I used to catch 2 trains. I used to take my homework with me and arrive back very late at night. So it wasn't an easy year. Well, my marks weren't the greatest, so I blame those trips on my struggles in the classroom. But that's basically, to answer your question, when I realized that I could make it as a career. To be honest with you, I had no idea what I was going to do post-school. I was working at a sporting goods store in Woodstock at the same time, and I signed my kind of junior contract with Cape Town Spurs when I was 17.
Is it like $200?
250.
Okay, it's probably the same now for that level of footballer these days.
We used to get paid in 10 Rand notes, so it looked a lot more than what it was.
A lot of green. Yeah, so I was reading Benny's book, obviously, recently. Mark Gleason sent me the book. And it was a lot of nostalgia about Cape Town Spurs and things like that. When me growing up, like Spurs, well, more Ajax at that time, was like the reference point. But what was the setup like at Spurs when you arrived there? Were you overawed? Were you like, were you the odd one out there? You know what I mean?
No, again, to the point about colour, I understand why journalists, especially foreign journalists, make a big issue out of colour because of South Africa and history and stuff like that. But coming through the junior ranks, if you go down to any amateur club across the country, from 5 years old to 17 years old, you'll see every demographic.
For sure.
There'll be an equal spread, actually. And then at some stage, we start to lose the middle class and upper class kids.
Under 17.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It's more of a class issue. And the kids that come from a lower LSM tend to stick it out more. They're more hungry. And you see that in Brazil, you see that here in South Africa. You see that globally, actually. So it's not necessarily a color thing. It's more of a class issue. And we lose a lot of colored and black kids who are middle to upper class because I feel that they have more distractions and more options. That's got to change, because the pathway to success should be open and made easier for everybody. So, for example, if the referee doesn't turn up, if the lines are not marked, if the training gets too difficult, if things are not going their way, the structures and processes should be made as easy as possible for a young boy or young girl, no matter what class they are, no matter what color they are, to become successful. And I don't think that's the case, especially outside of our metros. There's not enough opportunity, and that's something that's like constant messaging, and to try and make the public aware of that, because everybody kind of just wants to focus on Bafana Bafana, Banyana, World Cup, EPL, PSL, Betway Prem. It's there's a lot more to it than that, and we've got a lot of work to do at grassroots, for sure.
But I mean, now as a parent, you would probably understand the logic of why these middle class kids disappear, because I mean, I can take my example. My parents were like, dude, you need to go study. Like, you can't just, bank on this, because what happens if, you know what I mean? And now as a parent, okay, you're a former footballer, but I'm sure you've seen it, like, around these clubs where the players disappear. Maybe their school marks are not good enough, and then they just disappear, things like that.
Yeah, but football's not just about the professional realm. It's about your health, emotional, physical. And you want kids to continue with the game for as long as possible, into senior level as well. And that's a sign of a healthy system where you're able to retain those types.
So playing with Spurs, you had Benni, McCarthy. Which were the other players that was really stood out for you guys in that era? I know you went on to play for Wits for your next move, if I'm not mistaken. Benni was obviously the standout player that everybody spoke about. Went to the national team at a young age. Who were the players there, and how good was Benni actually at that time?
Yeah, Benni was different class. I think he was a typical goal poacher. He knew how to finish, which is something that we've really lacked over the last 10 to 20 years. Somebody that's cold-hearted, like just so composed. Nothing will fluster him. You see often strikers leaning back and fluffing their lines, almost as if they're making an excuse for themselves already. Whereas people who are composed and like have that killer instinct, will keep their head over the ball, get over the ball, and make sure that they're side-footed and choose the right technique. Back to goals as well, he was great. With a defender behind him, he could swivel and turn, good in the air, one of the best goals, and I've read the book as well, it's a fantastic read. One of the best goals that I've seen from a technical point of view was that header against United. I don't think people appreciated how difficult that is. To be able to reach behind you slightly and to generate that power when you've got two world-class defenders putting pressure on you, and you stick it in the top corner, at the near post. That was the quality that he had. But I can also speak about the ones that we've lost. We're talking about kids being lost to the system. Wayne Roberts, one of the few South African, in fact, the only South African goalkeeper who Alex Ferguson was keen on. Junaid Hartley, Anthony Christians, those were all players who I played with at youth level, under 20 and under 23, and many more. Unfortunately, due to addiction and the distractions outside the game, which was a great pity because, those guys were some talents, man.
So you go on to Wits, and then beyond that you go to England, but we'll get there. So Wits, how was your time in Joburg, moving to Joburg? There's always the whole thing of Cape Town guys, Western Cape guys don't do successful here, but it's a myth. If you work hard, you're going to succeed.
Yeah, so from Cape Town Spurs, I actually moved to Mamelodi Sundowns in 1999, and I arrived at Sundowns, and they had just won 2 titles in a row. And I arrived at a team that had the likes of Roger Futumba, Rafael Chuku, Lavas Mahlala, Faya Masilela,
legends.
Themba Mguni. It was just a team that was chock-a-block with talent, and we won our 3rd title, and in fact a double in that first season. So I was over the moon, coming from Spurs up to Sundowns after a legal battle.
Even back then.
Yes. Okay. Yes. It took a lot of that legal battle with the whole Ajax Cape Town saga and Cape Town Spurs and 7 Stars.
So you left as a free agent.
Okay, sure. After a tough battle, and back then it was very difficult to take club bosses on. Once Andre Coetzee basically had the balls to take them on, and basically did a Bosman ruling here locally, things became to ease up for us, started to ease up for us, and players and agents started to grow a bit of a backbone. But up until then, you were on your own, So that took a toll psychologically on me. But on the field, it was great experience. And then Viktor Bondarenko was the coach. I moved to Russia for 6 years. I returned to Sundowns, and then Ajax Cape Town for 2 seasons, and then Wits was my last year as a professional.
You can't speak about Russia as a side note, but England first, Wimbledon. I think that was the time they were transitioning into a different club or whatever. What happened there? You got spotted probably playing for the national team or something. What happened going there? You didn't play at all, and then you came back.
Yeah, so Wimbledon at that stage was owned by a South African family who were quite close with the Kroc brothers, who owned Mamelodi Sundowns at the time. So that was the connection. Okay. But a lesson I learned there was you've got to make sure that the manager wants me. And that wasn't the case. And I realized that as soon as I landed. So I was, of course, very excited to go, but it didn't work out. I played for the reserves for 3 months, and then made my way back to South Africa with my tail between my legs.
What was the conversation when the coach met you?
He never had a conversation with me.
It's just like, who's this guy training? You didn't even train with the first team?
No.
Wow, how old were you at the time?
So that was 2001. We had just come off a fairly successful Olympics. Yeah. I'd gone to West Ham for a trial, which was probably the closest I got to joining an EPL club. They were very keen on me under Harry Redknapp. They were about to sell Rio Ferdinand to Leeds, so they needed a centre-back. Harry was apparently keen. Sundowns unfortunately asked for £1.5 million for a player who hadn't played for Bafana. This was 2001.
Yeah.
That was too much. You know?
Yeah.
It was a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
So that was a great, big disappointment for me that Natasha Chiklis was not more reasonable. After all, they had got me for free. And that fell away. And then as my contract came to an end, they realized that they needed to cash in.
Yeah.
And this Wimbledon deal came up. That didn't work either. And then eventually Russia came along, the opportunity to go there.
So like 8 years of your life. Like I said, you can't mention it as a side note. I would have assumed that, like, you know, not many people in the SAFA section is following Russian Premier League.
No.
I'd assume that the media is not following the Russian Premier League, nor is it on television. So didn't you feel like potentially to get forgotten going there? Or what was the level of football like? I think you were at Rostov, and I can't even pronounce the other team's name. But Sianda Kulu also played for them as well,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken. So what was it like playing in Russia, and did you get forgotten after that?
I did. So I was during those 6 seasons. I never got a call up for Bafana.
For 6 seasons.
Yeah.
So 21 till
2002 to 2008.
okay.
So
Your prime.
yeah. So the World Cup, I got called up to replace Mark Fish in that World Cup year, 2002.
Yeah.
I got an injury, unfortunately, on the way to the tournament, and then got replaced by the late Jacob Legeto.
Okay.
And in that year, the following season, I made the move, thanks to the Viktor Bondarenko's contacts in Russia. Jacob, funnily enough, was the first one to represent us in Russia, and he did so superbly well that the demand for South African players was actually quite strong.
He was still in the
Russian
Bafana
league.
team
Yeah,
at the time.
that's right. And I moved to a Rostov team who was struggling, myself and Gift Kampamba, and we had an immediate effect on the team. The following season, then, I think the club owner brought in 5 or 6 South Africans.
Yeah.
Tony Coyle,
Yeah.
Jaffet Swane, Rowan Hendricks. So it was quite a nice period for us. I was a little bit disillusioned, very similar to Benni, if you read his book or understand the history. I was a little bit disillusioned with the whole Bafana setup
Why?
because of the organization, the lack of. And I didn't appreciate the fact, the way that SAFA had treated Clive Barker leading up to 98, Carlos Queiroz leading up to 2002. The coaches get you qualified, and then they come up with some spurious reasons why to get rid of you, because they want to stick some, one of their faves in. I mean, it's the politics of the organization, unfortunately, but it does the whole process is such a disservice. So it wasn't only about the fact that you had to buy your own tickets, your airfares, all those kinds of stories, hotels not being
Did they ever
booked.
pay you back?
What do you
tickets?
What do you think?
I mean, Sean
That was a
Bartlett was
constant
saying.
battle.
Yeah, Sean Bartlett was saying that he was told he was going to get paid back, and it never
It
happened.
was a constant battle. I mean, don't even get me started about bonuses and having to negotiate as a 18 or 19-year-old at under 20s, going to representing your nation at the first Nations Cup, getting silver medal in Morocco, then qualifying for the first World Cup in Malaysia, 97. We were negotiating late into the night, even on the honeymoon, on the eve, of those types of competitions. So there was a long history of having to battle, constant battle, and at some stage you just you say to yourself, no, I'm not going to continue with this.
But was there a fear of speaking out because of being dropped from the national team altogether? Because in the week I posted a story, did an interview, ironically, with an England player, and he spoke about Benni and Pino. And then I posted the story with image of Benni and Pino and Bafana shirts, and a lot of people were commenting, these guys turned their back on us. They only honored call-ups when they felt like it, you know what I mean? But this is because there was no proper discourse at the time to say, this is the reason, this is why Quinton's not coming, this is why Sean's not coming, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Were you guys like fearful of speaking out because of just being dropped completely from the national team?
It's also, you know, the media has a lot to answer for, actually, for the way that they behave, and the way that they report, and the sensationalism that they try to generate to make money. And that's why I enjoy podcasts where people can see my expression, hear my voice, and actually see it as it is, and not have someone write it third party and use their creative license for their own betterment, you know.
Yeah.
And I saw it with SAFA and with the way that we were portrayed in the media when it suited them. And so I would encourage the public to change their minds about exactly that sentiment, because that was not the case. It was always an honor for us to play for our nation. But there came a point where you said, man, enough is enough, you know. You know, why must I put up? You know, these guys, you must also realize that Benni, Quinton, Darren Buckley, those types of players were in a highly professional environment, 24/7. When they get called up for their national team,
they're stuck in Ethiopia in a layover for 5 hours or whatever.
That was certainly not the case. And it's not that we wanted constant luxury and looking after and holding our hands. No, that wasn't the case. But just get the basics right. And there has been an improvement. I mean,
because most of the team is local. That's what.
It's a very big organization, and there are pockets of excellence in it. But at that time, it was a huge problem, and I can understand why players often rejected the thought of having to travel, because they knew what was coming, which was a great pity.
Can you give an example of, if somebody sitting like knew what was coming, what was an example of a frustration, like a call up that would be frustrating?
From the get-go, not having your ticket ready for your flight.
So you're sitting at the airport waiting for tickets.
That was quite common. Then, because you're a player playing overseas or a senior player, you are expected by the local players to go and negotiate on their behalf. And from day one, when you get into camp, there's a strong focus on bonuses and the fact there's no agreement yet, you know. And it's a very easy thing to do. Here's the budget, lads. This is the agreement. Do you accept it or not? Yes or no? And that could be done months before a major tournament. And that was never the case. For the first time, 2010, we reached an agreement 2 weeks before the first game. And that had never been done before. And yet we still got stick from the media for it.
For allegedly downing tools.
Yeah. And what people never realized about that agreement was that the players asked SAFA for R1 million so that we could donate it to charity. There were 4 charities that were chosen by the squad.
Yeah.
Post World Cup, did we not have to fight for that money? It was written in black and white, and we had to ask our lawyers to write letters back and forth to demand that money. Now that was something in black and white which they tried to deny us. We eventually got it, but the amount was depleted due to the fact that we had to spend money to get lawyers involved.
Yeah.
Publicly, nothing was made of that, and it was our give back from the players. But we still had to fight SAFA for that money.
Look, for most of the media, they're getting the information from somebody, and it's going to be one-sided. I can play the devil's advocate here, you know what I mean? So sometimes when there's a fight between two parties, one party doesn't speak, the other does, and you know what I mean? That's just how it goes. But anyway, I could completely understand that and the frustrations. But you said you were in the wilderness for what, 8 years? How did you get back into the limelight, the spotlight for that World Cup?
Because in 2008 we failed to qualify for the Nations Cup for the first time.
That was Burkina Faso?
Our last game was against Nigeria in Port Elizabeth. And we basically got knocked out. We failed to qualify for the first time, which was unheard of, for South Africa. And then the press started to make a little bit of a noise about me. Yeah, as they do. They look for saviors that have been rejected, elsewhere. And Santana caught me up. And I had 2 or 3 really good friendly games, internationals, leading up to the Confederations Cup in 2009. And I was able to establish myself in the team before that tournament. So that's
next
basically...
Next
to Mbazo. We had Sia Sangweni, Morgan Gould.
Morris was out of the picture already.
Nassif Morris was in the picture then. But I think he had a bit of a fallout with Santana before the Confed Cup. And those were the centre backs, Bongani Kumalo, that I had to compete with. Obviously, Aaron was the skipper, so there was basically only one position that we were fighting for. Very similar to the goalkeeper position. And I thoroughly enjoyed that time. Had a successful tournament. And then leading up to 2010, unfortunately, the coaching staff changed. And then Bongani and Aaron became the 2 regulars.
Yeah. How was Santana? There was a lot of question marks around him. I think his lack of English also made him a bit of a case of ridicule in the media. But I mean, I've spoke to Brazilian journalists at the Club World Cup. They equally said he wasn't known for being tactically astute or an intelligent coach, but he was just somebody that could, in Brazil, could just be part of memorable teams. I don't know why or how. But what was your experience under him?
Oh, he was a personality. I could probably compare him to Sheikh's Mashaba, where the players wanted to play for Sheikh's. He wasn't necessarily tactically nuanced, but then we had Kenny and Lazi and Thabo Dladla for that. Similarly, Santana had Jairo Leal, who could do that. So you look back at the old England team, Bobby Robson, same thing. The players desperately wanted to play for the guy. And that's often half the job when it comes to being a coach or a manager. But rather suspiciously, I got injured after that tournament and I had to go for an operation. And then we had about 6 friendlies where we played a lot of them in Europe, I believe, and we lost all of them. And then all of a sudden Pereira was back. There wasn't an issue with the wife anymore, who was apparently sick and ill, which was the reason given for him leaving in the first place. And he was back in the fold leading up to 2010. And it was a very unusual build-up. The league was basically postponed, and we were in camp. Out of the 6 months, we were probably in camp for 4 months.
You were back already that time.
Yeah. So I was part of that local squad which camped for a large part of that build-up.
You're playing friendlies against NFT teams. Shaba, that's where Shaba came out, if I'm not mistaken. Tsapiwe Shabalala, you guys played like an NFT 11 or something like that, and that's what he spoke about, right?
Yeah. We went to Germany for a month. We went to Brazil for a month, and I loved it. I loved the build-up, the whole sort of the trepidation, and looking forward to hosting the world's greatest sporting event on our doorstep was great. And to be part of that at that time of my career was incredible.
How would you describe that month?
Quite surreal. I think one of the greats that Pereira had was not allowing the entire team to go on that Santon bus trip. There was great debate in the beginning because we didn't want to be seen to be celebrating before the World Cup had even kicked off. But I think he regretted not insisting that everybody go, because we had been cocooned for many months leading up to the World Cup, and I think it would have been great if every single team member realized what it meant. And so to go on a bus trip in Santana and to see
the vibe,
200,000 people out on the streets, plus wishing us well, was I think an opportunity missed. So there was only a small group of us that decided to go, and the majority of the team stayed at the hotel.
Do you think you guys performed as expected, or was there a bit of regret amongst you as a group?
I think the crucial parts of the tournament was that equalizer against Mexico in the first game. I think if we had been able to hold out for a 1-0 win, that would have put us in better stead going into the Uruguay game. I think we were a little bit naive against Uruguay as well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, most teams were going to put that French team to the sword. But we were very proud of the way that we did it as well. I'm sorry that we couldn't push for the third and fourth goal, because I think at that stage we needed to beat them by 4 goals, 3 or 4 goals, to make sure that we went through. So yeah, there's always regret when you don't make it through the group stages. You always look back and you wonder what might have been.
It's bizarre for somebody that's maybe just looking at the names on the French team sheet to say most teams would have put them to the sword. What did you guys? Were you guys aware of what was going on in the team? Like, what was the chatter amongst the squad before the game, build up to the game?
I don't think there was any chatter per se, but we all recognized that this was a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
Because they were a mess. They were a psychological mess. It was, the drama just started from the get-go. They clearly didn't want to be there. They didn't want to be coached by who they were being coached by. And so it was a disaster for them. Man.
In the press was saying that he was selecting the starting 11 based on horoscopes and the stars and stuff like that. That's how bad it was at one point, I think.
Well, yeah, I think if there's one coach, I've never been coached by him or interacted with him, but if there's one coach that I really disliked, and hate is a strong word, but it was, again, to Benni's point, Troussier, and the way that he treated players.
Was he really that bad? Because you're not going to be the first or the last one to mention this. I spoke to him. I spoke to him once. I did an interview with him for Kickoff, and he said that there was, you guys didn't understand him. He said it was a cultural mismatch or something. Like, he wanted to instill discipline where there was none. But from a player's perspective, what you watching this unfold, what was actually happening?
I thought that he chose a direction which I think he now regrets. Privately, he would regret it, thinking that he could be the bad cop.
Who was the good cop?
It didn't work.
Who was the good cop?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think there was one.
Okay.
I think everybody else on his staff was silent.
Okay.
Or too scared to rock the boat and to speak up, which is a great pity. But he got it completely wrong. And the one thing that I regret, and in my defense, I was quite a young captain at the time, leading my team to the Olympics. Our first game was against Japan, coached by Philippe Troussier. And my team talk before that game should have been more filled with emotion and not hatred, but animosity directed towards him, so that I would remind my team of what had transpired in '98. And I think I could have gotten more out of them in that opening game. Unfortunately, we lost 2-1 to Japan, and that is one of my regrets.
But what did he do? Was he just a terrible human to certain players? Did he kick players out?
No man management skills whatsoever. The way that he treated some of those players with total disrespect, you don't do that. And he broke some of those players, and that you just cannot do. Then you should be a school. You should be doing something else. You should be nowhere near a football team.
Look, I mean, post the World Cup, you end up back at Sundowns. You finish your career. You had Ajax, you had Wits. That final few years, was it enjoyable? Was it the most enjoyable time of your career? Or where would you say was your highlight over career?
I think I really enjoyed my football in Russia for 6 seasons. Coming back to Sundowns, I really wanted to win things. Patrice had taken over the team by then, and my naive thinking was, he's got the money, therefore the best players are going to be there, we're going to win things.
Yeah.
So I'd made my cash in Russia, and I came to Sundowns to seek glory. I'd established myself back in the national team. Unfortunately, what happened was every 6 months we had the best squad in the league, but every 6 months that squad was changing.
And a new coach.
So we didn't have any consistency. I think the first January transfer window we had something like 14 players come in. You know, I was there for 3 seasons. I had guys arrive after me and leave before me. So there was no
continuity,
stability. And everybody knows that that's what's needed in a club. And I think when Pizzo finally arrived, he managed to gain hold of the transfers.
Yeah.
And then stability arrived.
But when you saw him coming there, did you think that he was going to be this guy that's going to bring success, or would it have been far-fetched for you to believe that at the time?
So I left when I was still injured, when Nieskens arrived.
Yeah.
He didn't stay very long.
They chased him away with the police escort.
They were pretty close to getting relegated, and then they had to they brought in Pizzo then.
Yeah.
So I had already left. I'd gone to Ajax Cape Town by that stage. But obviously, having spent 6 seasons at Sundowns in total, I still have a great affinity for the club, and I watch, and I have people, staff, players who I still want them to do well, you know. So I still follow the club. Naturally, and so from a distance I saw what transpired, and he needed to get control of the transfers really, and just get a bit of stability in there.
Did you ever feel like I mentioned that the Cape Town Spurs thing, and I'm gonna get to a point of this. Did you ever feel different or an outcast in the national team at any point, or by the fans, or by anyone?
No.
The reason why I'm asking this is because currently now we're having this crazy debate. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We're restructuring our centre backs now, and we've got, Bokazi, he's a young kid, we've got Ndamane, we've got Dotli, we've got Sibisi, we've got Makanya that's in the US, and then there's Imi Okon.
Yeah.
Just because he's got a Nigerian surname, he's been subject of abuse, and it's like he's not South African. You know what I mean? What do you make of that, that type of behavior, and how do you think he can overcome this? Because he's obviously one of the most talented centre backs. I mean, his brother runs for us in athletics, and we celebrate him.
Sure.
But when it comes to football, it seems to be like a different, standard or belief.
There's a big, football often reflects our social ills and what have you, and vice versa, because it's such a big game.
Yeah.
It's so important within our society. So you see the same issues within football as you do in general, in society in general. And there's a big issue with immigrants at the moment. I'm sure everybody can agree. There's a big debate about what should be done. And again, this is now spilled over into our football arena, and it's completely wrong. In fact, it's disgraceful, because why cast aspersions on him and not myself, for example?
That's my
surname is Booth. It's an English English
surname is German.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why didn't I get equal animosity? I didn't. I got total acceptance.
Yeah.
And I've always had that acceptance within the football industry where color, creed, your class is ignored. It's not an issue. So I find it quite disappointing that now this seems to be happening. But we also have to accept that what happens on social media is different to what happens in real life.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can guarantee you that he's accepted amongst his teammates. And I certainly hope that we keep him within the fold because he's a fantastic talent.
He does come from an amateur club set up in Randburg before Supersport, which is something we were speaking off camera. And you're saying you're involved in that sector, but you also have a promising young talent in your household as well. Can you speak about him and your hopes for him in the future?
Yeah, so he's his older brother. He's in the States, playing college football. He's loving it there. I think that's a fantastic system, by the way, that I think South Africa should try and replicate, the whole student-athlete program.
Like the rugby?
Yeah, similarly. So, yeah. But I think football at private schools and universities is still to this day not taken as seriously as it should.
Yeah.
And back to our class issues and losing kids, that's a gripe that I've had for the longest time. And his younger brother is playing GDL. Noah is playing GDL, 17-year-old, and he's kind of on the fence between having a very possible future as a professional, or perhaps going the college route as well. But as a young kid trying to progress and wanting to become a pro, it's quite difficult here in South Africa to know what the level is outside. And I think kids should have an opportunity, if they do have an opportunity, to go to Europe and experience exactly that and understand perhaps the gulf, or maybe not such a gulf, or what they need to work on. That is very important. We kind of again get cocooned with this idea that the Premier League is everything, Bafana is everything, but there's a whole new world out there, and I would love it if more kids get that opportunity to experience life in Europe, to understand the hardships, to understand what they need to work on to make it as a pro. And it's often not technical. We have some of the most technically gifted players in the world. It's often about arriving on time, looking the coach in the eye, being able to take instruction and then implement it on the field. Perseverance is a big thing that I always push whenever I do my school talks and sort of things of that nature. The most important characteristic that you got to have is perseverance. Coach A might not fancy you.
Like Dylan Smith right now is in the exact same position.
Yeah.
He's played 5 minutes of first team football since arriving at QPR, but he seems to have that mindset that I feel like he can become a success there. But on that note, like if you see in the GDL, Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns, and this, why is these academy? Okay, first and foremost, people ask, why is your son not playing there, for example? And secondly, why are these top clubs and top academies, in inverted commas, not regularly producing top players that are capable of playing in the first team, like you see at Barcelona? And I don't know, there's many clubs in the world. PSG, if you look at them, they've got like 5 teenagers on the bench, for example, and they're churning out talent. Why do you think there's a difficulty for South Africa's top clubs to produce like players that can come in as a teenager and immediately just go?
Well, it's not as easy as that. I think the structures have got to be in place not only in our metros but all around the country, so that we can maximize our pool of talent. There's got to be centers of excellence all around the country. We can't just be talking about Joburg and Cape Town. That's not good enough. So that's one of the major problems that I have. Everybody wants to migrate to Johannesburg, thinking that's where it's at, that's where the most opportunity is going to be. That's a very unhealthy thing to have, to centralize your football.
So do you think there's too much of the best talent in one hub that's creating an issue?
Yeah, and then we lose out because there's not going to be opportunity for everybody.
If they're all at Sundowns.
Exactly. So we've got to spread out. We've got to spread the love, and create centers of excellence in Nelspruit, Bloemfontein, PE, etc., etc. Because there's fantastic talent out there. I've had the pleasure of and the luck to be able to travel not only within South Africa but across the continent, and there's certain areas in South Africa where like the talent just is waiting to be nurtured. Just boys and girls are just wanting an opportunity, but it's not there. That's got to change. Our GDL system is fantastic. It's one of the best things that SAFA has instituted. Obviously, it's not a perfect system. I think the elite clubs have always pulled their noses up at the amateur clubs that are in the same league, but they've also got to understand that they have a development role to play. You know, if they beat somebody 6-0 and then they complain about the lack of competition, well,
you've signed them all.
Exactly. And you've that amateur team has now gone away and learned an important lesson.
Yeah.
And understood the gulf between them and their opposition. So there's a development role that they have to play. And they've got to understand that the amateur clubs in the LFAs are their bread and butter. That's where they get their talent from. They don't spring up from nowhere, you know. And so amateur clubs really are not given enough of their dues, you know, and the credit must go to them for continuing to do the Lord's work.
Now.
Yep.
Ubuntu, from your neck of the woods, they've been churning out a lot of talent. They're all over the PSL, going overseas and things like that. But I mean, you speak about the structures. Cape Town Spurs is the perfect example. They have everything that you're speaking of. How do you explain what's happened to them of getting double relegation, going into the amateur ranks?
Yeah, so it's difficult to criticize or give credit to an institution where you're not immersed.
Yeah, you don't know what exactly is going on.
You're speaking from the outside, and I always feel guilty about this, criticizing players or coaches or clubs,
owners,
when you're not embedded there, you know. So with regards Cape Town Spurs, which is very close to my heart, I felt there was a stage in their academy where they perhaps downgraded their coaches, and if you're going to be a selling club and rely on your academies, you've got to put a lot of resources into exactly that.
Yeah.
You can't afford to dilute. And I suspect that that's what's happened.
Yeah.
But I certainly hope that they regain their status and are able to climb back up. Having only Stellenbosch represent Cape Town in the Premier League is not good enough when you purely look at the amount of talent that comes from that part of the world. So I would love to see City and Spurs back up where they belong.
Before I get to your extramural activities off the field, off the studio, off the screens and stuff like that, just want to current affairs of the league. Sundowns, Pirates, obviously neck and neck for the title. Where do you think it's going to go? And are you surprised of what's been happening this season?
Well, as we speak, I think it's advantage Sundowns because they have a game in hand. They're playing Mumu Gallants.
Chasing a 9th title.
Yeah. But I must say, I've been longing for somebody to challenge Sundowns. If you're a neutral, you would most likely agree with me. You know, having a team dominate for so long, I don't think it's particularly healthy for the rest of the league.
And not just win by 2-3 points, like.
But it's great. I'm actually sorry that Sekhukhune, AmaZulu and Chiefs couldn't put up more of a fight as well, because they seem to have dropped off where it's mattered most.
Are you surprised?
I was surprised. I thought that AmaZulu had a bit of momentum going. I thought Sekhukhune had done very well at the start of the season, then gone through a bit of a dip, and I thought they were going to then rebound and mount a challenge. It doesn't seem the case. So that's a pity. I think Chiefs have done well to again get silverware last year. I think they've done well, much better in the market over the last couple of seasons, but they're still off the pace.
Third should be where they should be realistically.
But hopefully they continue to improve with their signings, and it will be a slowly but surely process, although their support base is very demanding. You know, so that's what they've got to counterbalance.
Yeah. So you reckon Sundowns takes this league title again this season?
As it stands now, it's advantage Sundowns, but the attacking prowess of Pirates, the fact that he seems to have settled on Makaula and Mbata, which I think is a fantastic centre of midfield. They still have a massive chance, and there's 9 games to go, so there's still a lot to play for.
There's also been a big chatter about these big 3 clubs in particular, and I don't know if you are privy to it as a former player. Was there a lot of politics involved in it, in terms of management, coach, this one, that, board members? Was it a difficult environment as a player? I don't know if you were aware of these things. Is it very difficult at these? I'm sure it's everywhere in the world, but obviously now we're speaking about South Africa. Is it a difficult area to navigate as a coach or as a top senior player and things like that?
At my time, I can only speak at Sundowns. Yeah. So at my time, my first stint at Downs under the Chickless family, it was very authoritarian. So there was very little politics involved. Okay. And that's probably the best way when it comes to running an institution.
Yeah. So they were signing players, not the coach?
No. They were signing players. In fact, most clubs in South Africa, the owners, they sign the players, which I don't agree with.
How do you sign players for a coach and then fire
Exactly. Yeah. But often the owner's point of view was, this is my money. I think I know about football. Okay. I think I know what's right for the club, so I'm going to do that. But you're basically paying a coach or manager. You're delegating him to coach a team, to train them, to get them ready. But then he doesn't have any say in. And again, it goes back to Benni's book. He complained of the same things. So it's not
of players.
We're not making this up. It's quite common. But I don't think it's correct. The coach has to have some sort of say, more than 50% say on who comes in. My second stint at Sundowns, when Patrice was involved, I found that the fans seemed to have a lot of influence on the club all of a sudden, which again I didn't agree with.
Who should be signed, or who should play, or the coach should go, the coach should stay, type of thing?
There was a lot of influence from the stands, yeah.
Okay.
Let me just say that. And that also is wrong. Your fans are there to support the team. That's it, They spend money every weekend and during the week to come and watch the team play. They have every right to boo you if you put in a bad performance when you walk off the pitch. But when I'm wearing that badge for you on the field while the game is going, you should be supporting me. You should be willing me to do well. But if you feel that I haven't given a good performance after the game, hey, please feel free to give me the bird. You got to let me know.
But it's an impressive or amazing to say that there is such an influence, because you did mention previously that when you were there in your first, and you told me off camera, there was just an example of 3,000 fans at an Al Ahly Champions League final, in 2001, you said, compared to where they are now. I was at the Stade Malien game on Saturday. It was almost a full house for a quarter final in the Champions League. Yeah. It's an amazing progression of where they are as a club.
Yeah, you can't just talk about Sundowns in a general manner. I mean, it's been a huge transformation, and they've made their mistakes, but I feel that generally from a success point of view, and they're going into the market and buying the right players, bringing in Pizzo and then his successors, Rulani, Mangoba, and now Cardosa. They've continued with that success without any seemingly hiccups, which has been great. And of course, any young kid that wants to buy a shirt now and follow a club, it's the whole Man City, Chelsea kind of attitude where I want to support a successful team.
Yeah. I go to school wearing the
exactly.
shirt.
And that's how they've generated their support. And in 2001, in a Champions League final against Al Ahly, we had 3,000 people at Loftus. That was 2001, and that's an example of how they've progressed and increased their support base, and it's great to see.
Bafana, we went through a dark period for like a few years, also ironically not qualifying for an AFCON 2021 or 2022 for Cameroon. New head coach Hugo Broos, and things has been kind of on an upward trajectory. What do you think of post AFCON? You've watched AFCON, where they are now and going into the World Cup. What should be their realistic objectives going to this World Cup after seeing the past few years?
First of all, I think the turning point for us was Bruce taking the core of that Sundowns team to Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
And getting bronze. That renewed faith in the team, and it gave us a bit of a swagger, which was great. It was such a relief that we had some sort of success,
Yeah.
And it was great the way that they played. It's funny how it's now changed towards almost a Pirates core, due to their attacking options, particularly up front. But still, quite right in having that core of the team made up of Pirates, because they have certainly come to the fore lately. I've had very few issues with Hugo Broos, and of course football is a very subjective game.
Yeah.
I feel that we need to prepare against stronger national teams, not just the likes of Panama. A 2-game friendly series against Panama.
They are ranked 20 something places above us though. But I get your point.
Yeah, I mean we heading into the Azteca Stadium against the hosts on the first game.
Before you get there, he also mentioned something. He didn't like when they played France, got hammered, and how the public destroyed the confidence of the players. They ridiculed them every day. That is something he's been wary of. For example, going to the AFCON, they said we could have played. It was a big South American team. I don't know, it was Argentina or something, and then Saudi Arabia. And he was just like, nah, I'll play Zambia. That I'm just giving you context now.
I think that's more of an excuse for
for himself.
For perhaps our lack of ability to organize in advance.
Yeah.
To organize in advance.
Yeah.
A strong opposition.
To bring England to FNB or whatever.
Yeah. But that again, that's just a guess, But we need to prepare well.
And you're saying the Mexico going to the World Cup, what's our expectations? Or should be our expectations? It's Mexico, I think South Korea, and we a European team that's yet to be determined.
If you go back to 2010, I think if we had hung on to those 3 points against the very same Mexico, it would have been a very different story. In this case, if we can get a point in that first game, it will set us up beautifully.
Because we're playing away now.
And it's going. The atmosphere is going to be super intense in that stadium. I don't think, South Korea, we have the flair to get past them. We have the ability to beat them as well. But I think that opening game is going to be all important. Of course, we still have to wait for the 31st of March to see.
I think it's going to be Denmark, if I'm not mistaken, most likely.
Yeah. I mean, North Macedonia, Ireland, Czech Republic, Denmark, those are the possibilities. North Macedonia is probably the lowly ranked option. But from a status point of view, World Cup pedigree, Denmark could very well be the ones. And again, that harks back to 98, old adversaries.
Old foes. So, I mean, the last time I saw you, that's why I want to give you an opportunity to speak about it, because I found it quite interesting. I met you at a conference at FNB Stadium. You were giving a very fancy presentation, and I was wondering why is this guy not a sporting director? Why is he not in football administration? He's so well spoken, and obviously, I don't know why you didn't decide to go in that direction. But yeah, you were speaking about these projects that you're doing off the field, outside of your broadcasting duties and things like that. Just for the audience, can you give me an explanation of what you've been doing over the past few years and what the next few plans?
Yeah, so you can't, even now today I've had a bit of a go at SAFA. I've given them credit for certain aspects as well, signing off on the SASL 2000, for example, the GDL project, and a number of other things. But I still feel there are too many gaps in our football development process and the structures. And so you can't just sit back and complain. You've got to put your shoulder to the wheel and give back and try to fill those gaps as much as possible. And so with Booth Africa, we offer football clinics. We get the legends involved. We build facilities, artificial grass facilities. And we've also helped organize 3 international events over the last 3 years. And all those 3 offerings can operate harmoniously together as well. We've affected 7,000 kids since 2009.
Which areas?
All over South Africa and in Botswana.
Okay.
And we've built 62 fields of different sizes over the last 10 years. And then helped to organize those 3 events, So I've always been fascinated with artificial grass. Way back in 2009, I attended a seminar that FIFA hosted in the build-up to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Sub-Saharan Africa, from a water savings point of view, it's great. Very little maintenance. Plus, a boy and a girl can learn their technique properly on a nice, flat, green piece of field. And we all know, Lorenz, the type of fields that we've had to play on in the past.
you had to keep your eye on the ball till the last second.
Yeah, so it's a very popular concept.
What about injuries? There's always this chatter about that.
So in the US, with the first generation artificial grass, there were a lot of ACL injuries in particular, but with the new generation stuff, they've imitated the natural turf to such a degree that it's virtually, it's not even a question anymore. But yeah, you will see some first generation fields still in existence in South Africa as well. But the new technology is fantastic. The shock pad, etc., and the amount of product that's available. But most of our fields have been located at schools, just from a management point of view. There's nothing worse than building this brand spanking new facility and it gets locked up. It doesn't get used, or it gets hijacked by local gangsters or by a community that wants to make money out of it.
Yeah.
So you've almost got to put as much budget aside for managing a facility than the actual build itself, and that's something that we tend to get right. Yeah.
So what's next? The next couple of years?
Yeah, just continuing. We've the business has been going very well. Our MPC as well is also very busy, and I would love to get the politics of ex-footballers is quite difficult. I would love to bring harmony amongst ex-players and to get everybody on the same page and to utilize them to full effect, because a lot of them have got 10, 15, 20 years experience, but they generally are not being inducted back into the industry. And there's such a huge demand and space for that. And again, unfortunately, SAFA is not utilizing them to full effect.
You guys had like a class of thingy, like you guys came together. But now there's the class of 96 guys. Not so much your generation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see that the documentary, that John Barker did for the class of 96. That's what we need to see. We need to be reminded of them constantly. We need success stories in the industry.
Yeah.
It can't just be about rugby all the time
For
and
sure.
cricket. You know,
Yeah.
we've got to celebrate our success. And celebrating our legends and being able to make sure that they pass on, they're part of that knowledge transfer. And so I would love to see an increase in that.
On that note, Matthew, thank you for giving me more than an hour. I need to let you go for your engagements, but it was really insightful. So guys, if you enjoyed that 1 hour and 20 minutes knowledge transfer of Matthew Booth, please like, share and subscribe. Until next time.